Hello there, Wolverine Nation. Welcome to the inaugural Bleed Blue podcast presented by BleedBlueRecruiting.com, the number one source for Michigan football and basketball recruiting and news. I'm your host for the day, Anthony Broom, staff writer and contributor to BleedBlueRecruiting.com. This is our very first episode of our planned bi-weekly podcast, and I'd be lying to you guys if I said I wasn't excited about where we go from here. You know, we started up in late January. We have surpassed over 20,000 views on our website, and we've got about 1,400 followers on Twitter. And it's not a lot for now, but from where we started and what we've been able to accomplish, it's kind of a big deal for us. Got a lot to talk about today, but I'm going to start by introducing myself. As I mentioned before, Anthony Broom is my name, and I do a lot of work for the site, mainly on the basketball side of things, but I also do a bit over in football. I'm currently a college student looking to go into the journalism field, so when Kyle Gill, the guy who runs the website, asked if I wanted to be a part of the staff, it was something it was an opportunity I had to take, because I'm always looking for opportunities to write and to get my opinions out there, because Lord knows I have many of them. Been a Michigan fan for my whole life, and I'm pretty well in tune with what comes out of Ann Arbor, and it's really cool to write about what I'm passionate about, and that's what's most important. But without further ado, let's get to what you all came here for, recruiting and news. I want to start with some headlines first. St. Patrick's Day weekend saw the first visit of top 2014 prospect Deshaun Hand visit the University of Michigan. A five-star recruit and the top-ranked defensive end and player in the class of 2014, Hand spent the past weekend in Ann Arbor for the start of spring practices, and by all accounts it went really well, and was really promising for Michigan's chances, quite frankly. He stated on his Twitter account, quote, "I love this place," and "Ann Arbor showed me a lot of love. I gotta come back. #GoBlue." While Hand still has more visits to come from schools like Alabama, South Carolina, Florida, and Virginia Tech, the Wolverines have got to be encouraged that come signing day 2014, they have as good a chance as anyone, if not better, that Deshaun Hand puts on a Wolverine jersey. Another big football story from the week was the news that broke that Drake Harris, wide receiver from Grand Rapids Christian, officially reopened his recruitment. Drake was committed to Michigan State with the hopes of pursuing not only a football career but a basketball career as well. Somewhere along the line, he decided to just focus on football, and he decommitted, and he is fair game now, and rightfully so. This kid, he's 6'3", 175. He's a really big receiver, big-time playmaking receiver, someone Michigan could really use, quite frankly. Kind of encouraging. He was on campus for, I believe, 3 straight weekends. He was here for the Illinois game, the Michigan State game, and the Indiana game. And by all accounts, those visits went well, too. So Drake Harris is now a free man, but he's got other schools coming after him. Michigan is believed to be in the lead at this point, but other schools have shown interest, including Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State, Florida, and several other schools. And when you watch him play on tape, it's really easy to see why. He could be a 5-star by the time his senior year is done. They really could use him to go with. They've got a lot of quarterbacks coming in. We've got Devin Gardner for the next 2 years now. Shane Morris will be coming in this year. Wilton Spade will be here in 2014. So really could use a toy to go along with your highly regarded quarterbacks. Switching gears over to basketball news now, John Beilein received his first official commit of the 2014 class in the form of big man Ricky Doyle out of Bishop Verrett High School in Fort Myers, Florida. Doyle was in town for the game against Indiana, was offered a scholarship, and he committed almost immediately. 3-star recruit by many services, Doyle is a very skilled player and will give the Wolverines much-needed front court depth in 2014. He's a good finisher at the rim. He's got some good post moves down low, and he really should be a good fit here. For more on him, check out bleedbluerecruiting.com. We do have a write-up on him over there. But he should combine with Mitch McGarry, Mark Donnell, and John Horford to be a really solid rotation of bigs once 2014 rolls around. Speaking of visitors at the Indiana game, another high-profile basketball recruit was in attendance in the form of 2014 five-star shooting guard prospect Devin Booker out of Moss Point High School in Mississippi. He currently holds offers from Michigan, Missouri, Arkansas, Duke, and Florida. And a leader is not currently known at this point, but there was some good feedback that came out of the visit, and I like Michigan's chances. He would be the signature player of the 2014 class, and I really think he'd be a perfect fit in Beeline's offense, paired with incoming point guard Derek Walton. Those two would combine to be one of the smarter, most explosive backcourts, not only in the Big Ten, but possibly the nation. I like what both guys do. They're both very smart players, very high basketball IQ. They both can score the basketball, so that would be an ideal, situation for me if I was making that decision. Those are some of the big recruiting headlines from recently, but the biggest news out of Ann Arbor is the current men's basketball team and their NCAA Tournament chances. This past Sunday, they were named a 4 seed in the South region after a disappointing finish to the Big Ten Tournament, I would say. Wisconsin completely outclassed them in the second half of that game Friday, but that's the past. We'll let bygones be bygones. They will take on South Dakota State right off the bat. The Jackrabbits, who will be a really tough test for them, I think. They love to run and gun a lot like Michigan does, and they're led by one of the most explosive players in the country that you probably never heard of, is Nate Walters. If you've heard of Walters, you'll remember that earlier this year he scored 53 points in a game against IPFW, which they're not a world beater by any means, but 53 points is impressive. Michigan by no means has an easy first-round draw. They're similar teams in that they like to play fast, and I don't know. I mean, I guess if Walters goes off, South Dakota State has a chance, but I think Michigan's talent will be too much, hopefully. They'll play the winner of number 5 VCU versus the 12 seed Akron. As far as the tournament goes overall, this year is as wide open as it gets. In my mind, there's at least 7 teams that could run the table and win it all. The toughest region, in my opinion, is the Midwest. You've got Louisville out there, Michigan State's out there, Duke is out there, and while every team out there seems to be stacked or has something good going for them, they all have a significant flaw, in my opinion. Louisville is probably playing the best out of anyone right now in college basketball. They earned themselves the top seed after an impressive run through the Big East tournament. I think they won 10 straight to end the year. That team will live and die by what their point guard Peyton Siva does for them. When he's on, Louisville is as good as any team in the nation, if not the best. But when I've watched Louisville play a couple times this year, and Peyton Siva just disappeared, and I really wasn't impressed. If someone can get him rattled, they will have a very good chance of taking down the Cardinals. Another team in that region, like I said before, Michigan State can never be counted out, especially in March. Almost every senior class that Tom Izzo has ever coached has been to a Final Four or on a deep tournament run, and I know Michigan State's the rival, and we're supposed to hate Tom Izzo, but listen, I grew up in a time where it was the post-Fab Five era. Michigan was reeling. Their program was basically dead. And My dad was a big Tom Izzo fan, and I've grown up, I don't want to say being a Michigan State basketball fan, but that being really the only team that I could watch and have any vested interest in until recently. And I have a lot of respect for Coach Izzo, and I think he is criminally underrated nationwide. But I digress. Their title chances are in the hands of their point guard, Keith Appling, who at times looks like he could be an All-American, world beater type of player, but way too often he suffers some kind of critical brain fart that costs the Spartans big. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch the end of the Michigan State game at Chrysler from a few weeks ago. It's obviously I wanted Michigan to win, but I kind of felt bad for the kid. Their bigs, Adrian Payne and Derek Nix, might be the two most physical, skilled big men players in the country. Payne can obviously hit a perimeter shot when he's left wide open, and Nix will just run you right over. I really like those two guys. But if someone's going to bury you on that team, it's going to be Gary Harris. When I watched that game in East Lansing and the Wolverines just left Gary Harris open and let him do whatever he wanted, that was not only embarrassing but flat out impressive how many times he could step up and hit a big shot. And if he gets hot during the tournament, watch out for Michigan State. The third team that I think is dangerous in that region is Duke. They started great this year. They were undefeated just about as long as Michigan was. I think it might have even been a day before that their streak came to an end. But when their big man Ryan Kelly went down, they became extremely beatable, even with Mason Plumlee and Seth Curry. This is a team that was absolutely destroyed when they went and played at Miami this year. It was, I'm not a big Duke fan, but no, I'm not a Duke fan at all. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. I don't care for Duke at all, and seeing them get destroyed at Miami was probably one of my favorite moments of the year. But Kelly has come back recently. He was out for a while, but now he's back. Duke appears to have got some mojo back, and they seem primed for a deep tournament run, but we'll see what Coach K has in store for the rest of the field. Now, a lot of national guys have been, everyone's got their sleeper team. Some guys have VCU, other guys have New Mexico. But one a lot of people seem to be talking about that I'll admit I don't know a whole lot about is St. Louis out of the Atlantic 10. But if you go to CBS or you go to Fox or you go anywhere you go, there seems to be a few experts that say St. Louis could go deep this year, and I think that's a team worth looking out for if so many people think so. I did a little bit of research on them, and I don't see it, but it's March, baby. Anything can happen. The West region is one of the more intriguing ones out there to me. Gonzaga's the top seed. I know not a lot of people were happy about them being the top-ranked team or even having a 1 seed, but I agree with you guys. They're not as good as they're being touted to be, but they are good. But the two biggest threats to come out of this region, I believe, are, yes, the Ohio State Buckeyes and New Mexico. As much as it pains me to say, guys, I really like how Ohio State's playing right now. Aaron Kraft is one of the best point guards in the country and the best defender in college basketball, in my opinion. And his running mate, Deshaun Thomas, is no slouch either. He reminds me a lot of Paul Pierce with his game, and I'm a little bit surprised that I haven't heard more NBA draft talk from him, because I think, he's got as good a shot as anyone as being a good player in the league. But New Mexico, they're a little-known mid-major, but I've seen them play a few times this year, and I got to tell you, these guys can play, and I wouldn't be shocked at all if they went deep. New Mexico very quietly enters the tournament as a top 10 ranked team in the country, And obviously the committee thinks very highly of them because they're a 3 seed. So those are 2 teams worth looking out for. You'll find out who comes out of that region later. Over in the East region, could possibly be the 2 favorites to win it all going into the tournament, which would be the Indiana Hoosiers and Miami. I want to start with Indiana, though. They spent nearly all year at the top of the polls, and rightfully so. Tom Crean, like him or not, he's kind of a jerk. Well, he is a jerk. But he's done a great job turning that program around. And Cody Zeller is one of the best centers in basketball, albeit I think a little overrated. But he is up there. I don't know how good he'll be of a pro player, but he is very productive. But I don't even think he's the best player on that team. If you've watched them at all this year, you know that Victor Oladipo is the strength of that team. You know, he just brings crazy intensity to both ends of the floor, and I think he will use the tournament as his platform to perhaps have a bid to be the top pick in the draft if he chooses to come out. It's kind of crazy to me that people aren't hyping him as the number 1 pick in the draft. I mean, maybe it's because he plays small forward and he's in a shooting guard body. He's only 6'5", but I mean, he gets after it, and I like that a lot. Christian Watford is another guy from that team I like. Watford, kind of like Gary Harris, where if you leave him wide open from the perimeter, he will single-handedly destroy your chances to win the game. So, you know, I like Indiana's chances a lot going to this tournament, and I think they got kind of not an easy draw, but they got a decent draw to make it to the Final Four. Miami, as I mentioned before, could be another favorite heading into the tournament. They're certainly very high on my list, and I think they have one of the best 1-2 punches in the game with Kenny Kaji and Shane Larkin. As I mentioned before, the Hurricanes, where they caught my eye, I know they've been a good team all year, but they caught my eye when they completely outclassed Duke at home. They beat them by like 27 or something like that. It was ridiculous, and I loved every minute of it. They started the year, I believe it was 13-0 in the ACC, something that had either never been done before or was rarely done. I don't have the stat in front of me, but impressive nonetheless. And their coach actually has some Final Four experience. If you'll remember Jim Larinaga when he coached George Mason in 2006, I think they beat Michigan State in the first round. I think on their way to the Final Four, they beat, North Carolina and UConn. So that is one of the more impressive runs you'll see out of a small school probably for a while. Well, it could happen this year. It's wide open. But now we'll go over to the region everyone's been waiting for, is the South region where Michigan lies. This is as open a region as there is. There's 5, maybe 6 teams that could go to the Final Four out of this region, and the top teams have flaws. Kansas is the top seed, Georgetown is the 2 seed, Florida is the 3 seed, and Michigan has a 4 seed. There are a ton of potential upsets in this region with really no clear-cut favorites. My fault. The most intriguing first-round matchup to me is VCU and Kent State. VCU coach Shaka Smart and Kent State coach Rob Senderoff were both assistants at Akron State from 03 to 06. They know each other really well, and whoever wins will get their shot at either Michigan or South Dakota State in Auburn Hills. Obviously, the Wolverines have a ton of questions going to this tournament. They finished 6-6 over the last 12 games, and they raised some serious red flags about their defense. 5 of those 6 losses, though, if there's a silver lining to it, came twice to Indiana, twice to Wisconsin, and once to Michigan State. But the biggest shock of all, probably the biggest upset of the college basketball year, was when Penn State took them down in Happy Valley. And it wasn't it wasn't because they just played bad the whole game. They were up by 15 late in the second half of that game. And then it just came unglued for them. That was hard to watch. They scored 78 points, which should get it done almost every night in college basketball, but they let Penn State score 84. That can't happen. It won't happen, I don't think. But we'll see. Like I said, the book is out on them. If Michigan ends up in a physical game, their chances are not very good. Luckily for them, I don't really see a team that can slow them down and make them grind it out till the Elite Eight, where they would likely match up against either Florida or Georgetown. In my bracket, I have them playing Georgetown. Florida might be one of the better defensive teams in the country going into this tournament, but I watched a game earlier this year where they just got destroyed against Arkansas, and I just wasn't impressed, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. Billy Donovan's had his team there before, so I'm sure they'll be ready to go, but I have Georgetown getting past them. To get there, Michigan obviously has to win Thursday. They'll likely have to beat VCU, but I've got a feeling about Akron in that game. A lot of people think of VCU as a potential Final Four team, and I think that's partly because anytime they get into the tournament with Shaka Smart, people are like, "Yay, potential sleeper team, Shaka Smart," just because he did it once. I don't see it this year, but who knows? It could happen. Like I said, it's wide open. The biggest, I don't know about biggest obstacle, but one of the bigger obstacles Michigan would have to get past is Kansas. Now, if you listen to national guys talk, Kansas is, they think very highly of Kansas, but I don't this year. Ben McLemore is pretty good. I think right now he's probably the favorite to be the top pick in the draft, but they really don't scare me. They don't play defense either. They're a lot like Michigan in that regard, and I don't think Jordan Morgan and Mitch McGary and John Horford would really have to fear going up against big bad Jeff Withey. But then again, they made Penn State's Sasha Borovniak look like Kevin Love, so I guess it could happen. I'm not saying it won't, but Michigan hasn't really hit their threes consistently in a really long time, which is really a trademark of Beilein's offense. Trey Burke has obviously been phenomenal all year, and in my mind is definitely the player of the year. The X factor, though, for them is going to be Tim Hardaway Jr. When him and Burke have it going, Michigan is nearly unstoppable. I don't care what Glenn Robinson does. I don't care what Nick Stauskas does. Those two can go off. If Hardaway doesn't play well, even, okay, if he's not scoring the ball, but those other two guys are going off, they'll be okay. But he has to play good defense. He's got to show up. And if Michigan makes a deep tournament run, it'll be because Tim Hardaway's playing the best basketball of his career. We all remember last year, the first round loss to Ohio was brutal. I still have nightmares about it. Another first round flame out this year, in my eyes, would be completely unacceptable. And really a disastrous end of the year. It's pretty well known that Trey Burke is gone after this year, especially after testing the waters last year a bit. But do you think he wants to go out early in the tournament when on the biggest stage and possibly his last game in a Michigan uniform? I don't think so. I don't think it's likely either. I don't know if this is just a slappy, giant Michigan fan of me or not. I try to be impartial, but I just have a feeling they get hot. I don't know why, but I'd be worried if they had to match up against a bigger, more physical team. But I don't see that until at least the Elite Eight. Pending upsets, of course, because it always happens. But I think they go deep in this tournament. They have to. An early exit, to me, would raise major questions about John Beilein and the future of this program. I mean, he's done a great job bringing in talent. He's got some good classes coming in for this year and next. But you have to be able to manage that talent. I'm getting kind of tired of hearing the young team excuse. No, Kentucky was almost all freshmen last year. I shouldn't say all freshmen, but their big players were freshmen last year. And yeah, they were NBA lottery guys, but you have to be able to manage that talent. You know, but it depends on the kids too. So, without further ado, I will give you guys my final 4 picks. I have Louisville coming out of the Midwest region, New Mexico coming out of the West, Indiana out of the East, and, you guessed it guys, your Michigan Wolverines will come out of the South region. My title game pick is Indiana over Louisville. I can see Michigan and Indiana matching up at the Final Four, but I just think Indiana is a bad matchup for them. It would be a really bad draw. They would have to hope someone else takes them down early because Indiana has given Michigan a ton of problems this year, and I don't think they're physical enough to keep up with them. Even though they kept it close, in their 2 games, this is going to be a totally different monster. But I got a few first-round upsets I looked at when I was filling out my bracket. I've got it sitting right here in front of me. I've got the 9 seed Missouri over Colorado State. I've got the 12 seeded Oregon, who was criminally underrated, but so I don't know if this would really be an upset, but over Oklahoma State. I got the 10th seed Cincinnati over Creighton, 12th seed Ole Miss over Wisconsin, 12th seed Akron over VCU, and the 11th seed Minnesota over UCLA. I could be totally off base with all of this. And, truth be told, I probably will be. My bracket is historically screwed by mid-Friday. I'll get all excited because Thursday I'll hit on 15 of 16 games, and then Friday comes around and it's just like, well, I'm done. Rip the bracket up and enjoy the rest of the tournament, which really is what we should all do anyways, because this year it's going to give a lot of people fits. But, hey, we all know how much you guys like to say I told you so. Well, I think that's enough of my rambling for this week. Remember to keep it locked in to bleedbluerecruiting.com for the latest news regarding football and basketball recruiting. Something else I want to do in future podcasts is I want to take questions from you guys. So, like I said, you can send them in to us or, email us or do what you got to do. You can follow us on Twitter at @BlueRecruiting and friend us on Facebook. If you'd like to follow me personally on Twitter, you can follow me at BleedBlueBroom. That's broom with an E on the end. Or if you want some of my opinions on other stuff, you can follow me at Anthony_Broom. In the coming episodes, I want to have a guest or two with us. Certainly I want to get Kyle and some of the other guys involved in this, but it's the first time around. I enjoyed doing this, and I hope we can improve it for you guys in the near future. But that's all I have for this week, so stay tuned and go blue. This broadcast is a 2013 copyright of Bleed Blue Recruiting and is not to be duplicated or used without expressed written consent of bleedbluerecruiting.com or any of its staff members.